Welcome to Abnormal, the podcast for normal people who want to do abnormal things. Now imagine if luxury brands like Gucci, Prada, or Valentino decided to throw a secret members-only sale where everything is 50 to 80% off. And you only have 48 hours to shop before it all disappears. Well, that's pretty much what my guest today has built. Today we're joined by Delphine Dultzin, co-founder and CEO of On The List, a members-only flash sales platform that revolutionized how luxury brands clear inventory and solves the problem of brands burning and disposing of unwanted stock. Delphine, welcome to Abnormal.
Thank you. Happy to be
Now,
here.
is it true that companies or luxury companies would burn their unwanted stock?
In fact, yes. So the fashion industry is one of the most polluted industry in the world, and like the luxury brand for image, when they try everything to sell the product, they don't have a lot of options, so they have to dispose the stock. But more and more brands, they are very cautious about that, and they took publicly the statement not to destroy anymore the products. So there are like more brands are going into this direction, which we are very happy to see because these questions are very important for us, and that's the base of what we are doing.
Yeah. I mean, it seems so crazy in the current state of the world when everyone's talking about waste and climate change that companies are still kind of getting away with it, and that you weren't around sooner. It seems like such a good idea, and in hindsight, I mean, it's easy to say now, right? It seems like such an obvious idea. So what was it? Talk us through the kind of ideation and how you came up with this, especially being in Hong Kong. Is there a problem in Hong Kong that you saw that kind of triggered this whole thing?
Just to go back a little bit on in the beginning, and so I started the company On The List together with my husband Diego back in 2016. We launched the first event in 2016. We had the idea a year before. So I just arrived in Hong Kong a year ago. I was working for a brand called Fago, which is a French brand that is very eco-friendly because they plant a tree each time they sell a product. And at a point, I had some. So I was here. They sent me. I was working for them in France. They sent me here in Hong Kong, and they at a point I had some stock, and I called them saying, "Can I ship you back the stock? Because I don't know what to do with it." And they told me, "No, for the environment, you keep the stock here, and you try to with your friend. You organize this kind of garage sale, whatever you want to call it." And so I did it. It was really, in PMQ with a bunch of friends on a Saturday afternoon. But at the same time, I was trying to look if there are any operator partner that can do that for brands, because this business model exists in France, in Europe, in the US. But in fact, it didn't exist in Hong Kong back in 2015. And so the story is that so this business model of flash sale, friends family sale in France, the person that doing this company is a company called Arletty, and Diego, my husband, knew them because he was working. Sorry for I'm a bit sick. He was working for a brand, and he was working directly with Arletty. So we called Arletty saying we are very interested by launching this business model in Hong Kong. Can we work together? Can we do something? And at that point, they say, "No, look, we are very busy here in Europe. We have so many things. Asia is too far from us, so we cannot. We are not interested. However, if you want, you can come to our floor, to our showroom. We call it showroom." And you can be an intern, and you can learn all the operational aspect of doing it, which was very nice from them. So we did it. We went for 10 days on the showroom in Paris. We learned everything on the operation part. We knew the business model because Diego was working as a brand with them, and we came back in Hong Kong saying, "Okay, now we have the two parts. So should we try it?" So at the beginning for us was a side project because we still had our job, and we didn't want to quit or to resign because, as you know, life in Hong Kong is quite expensive, and
Oh yeah.
it's quite risky. And so the first thing to start this business is to find a brand that trusts you and say, okay, we can work together. because the business model is that we don't buy the stock. It's on consignment basis. So we organize everything for the brand, but then the brand, they come to pick up the leftovers at the end of the event. And so at the beginning, we started to pitch and to meet the brand, and we were like selling our operational excellence and our database. But when we started, we had nothing. So it was really the fake it until you make it style to try to get the first brand on board. And so it took us around 4 months to convince a first distributor at that time that had a French brand called Bash, and it was the story that he was going to stop with the brand. So we had the chance to get to work with this distributor, and so it's how we started in Jan 2016. With this first brand Bash, which was a good thing for us because, as you can hear, I'm French, and we could have the support of the French community to have our first 1,000 customer that came to the event, and we started to operate. But it was again still a side project, and for 6 months, we did 6 pop-up sales in Central, in Hong Kong, while keeping our job. But after 6 months, we said, okay, let's now focus on this project because there is a potential, and we quit the job, and we started full time at On the List.
Wow, what a story! How I'm really interested to know your founding story and your business insights and everything like that. How difficult was it then to try and convince that first brand to come on board where you haven't got a proof of concept yet that is your own? You've got proof of concept that it exists in other parts of the world, but you don't have anything yet in Hong Kong. So talk us through how you went about securing that first deal.
But it was very difficult because we did a lot of meetings, and the brand, they were like, okay, but you don't have any track record, so how I will trust you? And this topic of past inventory discount is very touchy because it touched to the brand image. So it's mainly the CEO, CFO that are taking this kind of decision. So we are talking with the C-levels. So we were lucky in 4 months to have this first yes, but it could have last longer than that for sure. And then after, it's really it's a small industry, so people talk, and it's really like a virtuous circle if you do things well. But it's always very difficult to get the first brand. And in fact, now we are in 8 different markets around Asia and the Middle East, because we started in Dubai last year. And each time we start a new market, is the same story, because even though we have some track record from other markets, that helps for sure after almost 10 years. But it's always, you need to still convince the people on the ground, based locally, to work with you. So that's a never-ending story to convince brands to work with us.
And is Hong Kong your biggest market?
Hong Kong and mainland China.
Yeah. And so it's taken, 9 years to be in all those different markets, but I imagine every time it gets a little bit easier. Or has there been discrepancies with each market that have been different from the last? Like, how does Dubai differ from Hong Kong?
First, there are a lot of difference on the how to start the company in terms of admin. Because, for instance, if we talk about Thailand or South Korea, it took us more than a year just to do the admin part, which was very, very difficult. While in Hong Kong and Dubai, it's very easy. We're lucky to have been started in Hong Kong for that. And I think sometimes people don't realize that Hong Kong is so easy to start a business.
Yeah.
And after, in terms of partnering with brands, it really depends of the contact that we have and how fast we can go. But it's always with the same thing. You need to work with a top luxury brand that can convince after the other one. But for sure, it doesn't go with the same pace for all the markets.
So help me understand then, because I'm definitely not part of the luxury fashion world. I'm a guy from England who is not well known for his fashion. Let's just keep it simple. Just put it that way. I understand the importance of brand image and why brands won't want so much excess stock on the market. But how does this solve that for them? Because they're still selling all their excess stock for a cheap price, right? So what problems are you fixing for these brands, these super high luxury brands?
Just a quick one from me before we get back to the episode. Over the last couple of months, I've been working on a free goal setting template, which I've learned from my experiences and from the guests that we've had on the podcast. I've put it all together in a free downloadable template that I will leave a link for in the link below. So if you do want to do that and use the same goal setting template that I use every single morning, every single day to achieve my goals, feel free to click on the link and get your free template today. Back to the episode.
In fact, we are working with luxury brands, not as well as other brands. So, and all the brand, and we work with fashion, beauty mainly. And after we can work with lifestyle brand, or home and lifestyle, I would say, or even some food and beverage, which is not a big part of our business, but still. And in fact, so if we talk about the fashion industry, so we're talking about fashion, about style. When a brand, so just to explain a bit the life cycle of a product, so you have 4 seasons a year mainly, but after there are some brands that have more, but we can say 4 seasons. And then so you have new collection each time. And then when when the collection is finished, you have to make some space in your store to have the new collection to arrive. So it means that all the product needs to sell, but you can't sell everything. That's impossible. So more or less, usually the stores for full price, they have around between 50 to 70% of sell through. So sell through is the amount of stock that you can sell on the amount of stock that you received. And then the rest of the stock is either you do some end of season sale in store, which some luxury brand they don't want to do for brand image and they want to keep
Right,
the full
okay.
price. But most of the brand they do some end of season sale on the stores, and then after this, what couldn't sell during the end of season sale go usually to outlets. So in Hong Kong, for instance, you have a city gate, or you have a lot of outlets, where it's even more discounted. But then again, on the outlet, you cannot sell everything. So you have still stock on hands. And then at that point, you need to find a solution for this stock. So it's where we are here to help them to sell the stock that couldn't sell usually in the stores plus outlets.
Okay.
And for
I understand.
beauty, it's a different story because all the beauty products have some expiry dates.
Right.
And that's very, very, and they have to sell before that because otherwise cannot be sold. So for the beauty, we have even more volumes because we need to, the brand needs to sell this stock on this before the date, the expiry date. And all the top big beauty groups, they are very, very now strict about destruction. They don't want to destroy anymore. So they need to find a solution for this stock.
So is there a okay, I understand now. Thank you so much. That was a very clear explanation. It sounds like you're kind of like the bottom of the barrel. Like you're getting really the last slice of the action. But at the same time, it's the last pieces in the collection, but it's still of these amazing brands, right? So it's not terrible stuff that you're selling. It's like high luxury items, Dyson. I know my wife bought one of a hairdryer from you guys at Dyson, which and a Hoover, which we still use 3 years later. It's amazing. So I guess that's where it comes from. Now I'm trying to understand what's the risk then for you guys, because you said that you don't own any of the stock. So what happens once it's gone through you, but then it doesn't sell? What happens to the stock then?
So as mentioned, we don't buy the inventories, so it's on consignment. And when we finish the event, so we do everything for a brand. So let's say we have a brand, this ship us the product offline, we receive the boxes, and then we open the boxes. We count every single item that we receive to be sure that it matches with the list that they gave us.
Mm-hmm.
Then we display all the products. We operate the sales, so we invite our database, or sometimes only the database of the brand. So let's say for top luxury brand, they want to invite only their employees or the friends of the employees. So we are not always inviting our database, so that depends of the brand. And then after the few days of the sales, so it's between 3 to 7 days, I would say, we recount every single item to be sure that it matches with the sales. We repack everything, and then the brand comes to pick up the leftovers. And so we are just the operator during this period of time, and then they come to pick up this stock that couldn't be sold.
And what happens to it then?
Then it depends of the brand. Usually they try to send, because with most of the brand that we work with them every twice a year or once, depending of the needs. But the brand are very loyal to us, because when they start to externalize this service, just before we arrive, the brand did organize these events by themselves. But it's so time consuming for the team to organize everything. And after we are becoming the experts. So we know a lot of operational excellence details that makes the sales very successful. So that's why they are very happy to externalize that to a serious partner. So then when they pick up the leftover, that's up to them. And now we are trying to work more and more on this leftover. That's a project we are more and more involved to help the brand to recycle the item, even though recycling in the fashion industry is very difficult and there is no perfect solution. It's still very manual, because as you can imagine, if you have different materials in your clothes, or you have the buttons or the laces for the shoes, the sole and everything. So there are some new technology, especially in mainland China, that are more advanced. But we are trying to work with this leftover for the brand, or to help them to give to charities. But again, it's not an easy process. But when the brand pick up the leftover, then after it's up to them to decide what they're going to do with it. But most of the brand, as mentioned now, they have take this decision and this public statement that they don't destroy anymore, knowing that in France there is a law, now it's by law, it's forbidden to destroy. So they have to find solution for this leftover stocks.
I was going to ask, is there a mandate from governments or something that prohibits these brands from doing anything? Now, you mentioned France there.
Yes.
Is there any legislation in place in Asia, in different countries in Asia that you know of, or is it a bit more wild west?
No, in Asia there is nothing. In all the markets we are, I've heard with some people from the recycling industry that should be something happening in mainland China in the next 10 years. And when we think of mainland China, if there is a law, it will be from one day to another. But so far there is nothing. But
And how bad of a problem is it? Like if we were to say mainland China, for an example, obviously they're a massive population. How bad is of a problem is the wastage in mainland China?
It's difficult to know exactly, because usually the brand, they don't share exactly how much stock they have left. But what happened in mainland China, on top of that, that when you, as a brand, when you ship stock there, it's very difficult to ship the stock outside of the country because of the duties that are very expensive. So there is a lot of stock in China. After, there are a lot of solutions, there are a lot of outlets. But it's true that but there is a difficulty for the brands to ship the stock outside of mainland China.
And in terms of your business model, I know you are a subscription model, because you have membership, that people pay to be a member of on the list. I understand to get. No.
No, it's free. In fact, everyone can register for free.
Excuse me.
But then you have a premium membership that mainly allows you to get access to the sale in advance, because as it's a first come first serve business model, for sure the best stock is at the beginning. So it's a huge privilege to be able to be the first one to shop. So that's why we put in place this membership. But otherwise, it's completely free and everyone can register for free.
And are you able to put any numbers on? I read somewhere that you had 1.2 million members. And how many paid members then do you have on the list?
1.2 we have across Asia in total, for Asia and the Middle East now. And the pay membership is only in Hong Kong. It's not in the other markets so far because for different reasons. And in Hong Kong, I would say it's 20% of the database.
Okay, so 20% of the total memberships in Hong Kong are paid.
Yes.
Interesting. Have you noticed anything about like consumer behavior of your members that has surprised you over the last sort of 9 years?
That's I can tell you a lot of stories about that. I had one day a story where I was on the floor and they were like two ladies that were fighting for the same bag. They were both of them. They were like very like having the bag on the ends and they didn't want to let it go. And I had to flip a coin to decide who will get this bag or not. You can see crazy kind of behavior because that's very exciting, to pay this psychologically speaking. I often had the question, do you see any difference between your customer in Thailand, in Korea, or in other markets? But I would say everyone in the world is the same when you talk about discount. No one wants to pay something 100 when they can pay 10. Like it's human behavior. So you see always when we open the door, we open at 8 a.m., which is very important for us because like customer, they can come to shop before going to work because our showroom are in the city center. So that's very important for us that they can come. It's easy for them to come. So when we open the first day, we see always people running to go to the bag area or to the shoes because they are like, very excited. So an evolution, I wouldn't say an evolution. Then after we have different type of brand, more we grow. So you see different people, type of like customers. So it really depends. Like every week it's a different brand and it's a different story. We are in a business model where the pace is very, very fast because we are really doing everything every week. So we see different people coming to the event for sure.
And is it a different demographic every time? Is it mainly women, mainly men, different ages?
Well, it depends on the brand. When it's more lifestyle brand, let's say recently we did a Calvin Klein and Tommy Hilfiger. It's more like young people coming. When it's more like more luxury brand, it's a bit of different crowd. But I do believe that everyone can be interested by any brands, and because we give access easy in an easy manner to this kind of luxury brand, everyone can find something.
And do you think that it's people that are coming on the list to your sales? Do you think they're the type of people that would buy luxury brands normally, or are they seeing it now as their opportunity to own some of these luxury items?
Usually they are interested by luxury brand, but they don't necessarily have the spending power yet to access to these brands. But it doesn't mean that in the future they won't have the spending power. So for the brand, it's as well, even though it's not a marketing tool for sure, but it can be seen as a way for the youngest population to customer to discover the brand. And all the brand now they want the youngest to shop. So it can be a way to access to these people that will not shop full price now, but they will become fan of the brand and they may in the future shop in the stores.
Trying to get them in the old ecosystem and get them trapped in. And then for you guys, then we mentioned your business model. So there's some paid memberships, but that's only in Hong Kong. Would you mind sharing how you guys actually make money then on top of the memberships?
Yes, for sure. The membership is a very small portion of. So the business model is that we organize everything for the brand, as mentioned, and there is no upfront fee for them, and we take a commission out of the total sales at the end of the event.
So take a commission from total sales.
Yes, exactly.
Okay, and is that negotiated every time, depending on the brand, or is there
depending of the brand for sure? Depending of the fixed cost that we have, because for some events we receive 50,000 pieces. For some events we receive 3,000 pieces, so it's not the same scale at all. After different markets as well, different fixed costs, because we have to bear everything. Like we have to bear the rent, the people, everything linked to the event. So then we always calculate the fixed costs and then with the sales estimation and forecast.
And is there like a threshold that you will accept above? If there's like a really small sale, are you kind of at the stage now where you can say no to them because it's not going to make you as much money? Or is it kind of your objective is to say yes to as many as possible because you know that it's going to be reducing waste at the end of the day?
But it has to be win-win. So because the brand as well, even though they just have to ship the product to us, it's still a preparation work. So where we are very cautious is on the final price as a final customer, because so this is a discussion with the brand and us. We want to make sure that this price is the best one for our database and for our customers, because that's the message and that's what we are at the end of the day. So that's very important. So if a brand, they are not really playing the game and they want to put only like a 30% discount, then we'll tell them, look, we know that it's not going to work. Our customer, they are very price sensitive. So there is no point for both of us to do that because it will not work. So that's this kind of situation where we could say no to a brand, or if we see that a brand is really not attractive and no one will buy. But usually we tend to work with all the brand that we talk to, and to find as well and to explain to them why we are having these standards is for the event to be successful.
And is there any surprises that you've had over the years, or brands that you've worked with, things that you've learned about the luxury space that has surprised you when working with them in this kind of way?
Oh, but we always have to adapt because we work with so many different brands. So I think the strength of the team is to be very flexible and very adaptable to every kind of situation. We are in a business model where it's retail / e-commerce / events. So we always have last minute things happening. We are dealing as well with the HQ. We are not talking to the HQ, but the brand. They have to, this kind of event usually have to be validated by HQ. So sometimes people in France or in Italy, they just want to change everything at the last minute. So it's where we need to be super fast and adaptable.
Yes, I can imagine that could be a logistical nightmare at times when working with these brands. So how far in advance are you working then? If you've got these sort of pipeline of brands, I imagine it's, what's the sort of timeline if someone approaches you today to work together? When will you be able to turn this around and make it into an actual a sale and a product?
So it depends if it's offline or online, because for sure offline we have some showroom capacities. For online, it's quite flexible because if we talk about Hong Kong, we are now working with around 10 to 15 brands a week, but we can increase that if we want. If I take the example of the big online player in France called VP, they're having like 150 to 200 brands per week for every day. So that's huge. So it's just a question of manpower at the end of the day. If I talk about offline, so us, how it works is that we sign a contract with the brand on the event basis. So we don't sign like yearly or like longer contracts, because they don't know in advance how much stock they will have. But as I told you, usually the brand, when they start working with us, they are very happy with the operational excellence, with the operation, with all the service that we provide. So they work with us like every season, every year. So in terms of calendar, there are few slots empty, I would say, but we are pretty settled for the year, for 2025. And then after we start to fill in some dates. So usually the brand, they tell us more or less, I want this date in March, this date in November, and we pencil that in the calendar. But after, as mentioned, there are like some changes, there could be some changes and everything, but that we are more or less, so for offline, we may have some like slots available if like some brands are dropping as well. So there was a bit of changes.
So operationally, I understand that offline stuff could be a bit complex, but for online, how does that work operationally? does the stock go through you, or does the brand count it and then the sales, you just tell them exactly what's been sold and then they send directly to the customer, or do they still send you all the stock even if it's just an online sale?
So we have both model. Usually we prefer, so we work with the warehouse partner. We don't have our own warehouse because it's another job, and we're not expert and specialized into that. So we prefer to work with warehouses, and we have different warehouses in different markets. So usually the brand, we prefer that they ship to us all the stock, because we can, again, count everything, do some quality check to be sure that everything is perfect. And then after, we ship us to the customers. But sometimes we do something that we call drop shipment, that we receive the order and the brand, they ship directly to the customers. So sometimes it can be some stock from, like, we work with some French brands, so the stock is in Europe. Or it can be some partnership that we know that they are very, very well organized. We trust them. So to avoid like one more shipment, the brand, they ship directly to the customers.
Okay, so those is where you kind of have that level of trust with the brand that you know their quality control is up to scratch.
Exactly.
Offline versus offline, how important is the offline events for you guys? So the physical sales, the manic 8 a.m. mornings before work, how important is that to your company?
It's very important. It's the biggest proportion of our business. If I talk about the group in total, we started offline. Then we add the online proportion later, but the base and how we started was really on these pop-ups and then showroom. In total, now we have 4 showrooms, permanent showrooms across Asia. So one in Hong Kong, one in Shanghai, one in Beijing, and one in Singapore. In the other market, we do pop-ups, still do pop-ups, because we don't have enough business yet to have a permanent showroom. But as you can imagine, when you have a permanent showroom, you have to pay the fixed rent for the rent every week. So you need to have an event happening every week. Otherwise, you are losing some money. And as our showroom are in the city center, we pay high rents. So and the top luxury brand, they want to organize this event offline. They don't want to have it online usually. Even though we have an online, we call it staff sale platform, that was developed by us internally for the luxury brand that want to organize this employee sale, staff sale online. We have all the security measure. You cannot enter you can enter only with your email, with all the we crack everything to be sure that there is no screenshot and all the complexity of that. But most of the top luxury brands, they still want to do it offline. Sometimes they do both as well. But it's the offline business is more important for us, and especially in mainland China, where we are. The ecosystem is so big and the country is so big that we are a bit in a niche where we do very well the offline, while the online, there are so many big online players, and we are not yet there to compete with them. So the offline is much, much more important.
And what's stopping some of the big boys in this space, like bigger companies coming in and disrupting this space like you guys have done? What's stopping them? Why haven't they already done it?
Why they don't want to do online?
Why hasn't a big company come in and decided to disrupt this space?
That's happening. That's happening now in China.
Oh, really? Has that caused you guys any issues?
No, look, I think the market is big enough for different players. It's even productive for us, because it allows us to recenter and to really rethink of what we are doing, and we want to do it even better and even faster. So now we take it on the positive side.
And how would you differentiate yourselves from them?
Much more into luxury, much more into the partner of the top luxury brand. We are leading into this sector, this niche now, and because they trust us to manage and to handle all this stock, which is a big thing for them, and because we have this operational excellence standard, that we learn over the years that are not easy. It could seem easy like that. Okay, you just take a stock, you just put it on the racks and you sell it. But there are so many very, very, very tiny details that are so important that and we learned everything from this 10 years. So I would say now, after this 10 years, we have like 3 processes and we have SOP for everything, but it took time to arrive there.
Yeah, I mean, now it seems like you do have a huge portfolio of proof of concept, proof of product. Have you been back in contact with the French company that you originally contacted?
Yes. So on a really friendly way, each time we go to Paris, we talk to them and we meet them. It's a bit our like model, and franchement, they've been so nice with us that we are still talking. And us, we are very open. We like to meet the other one. So when we went to the US, we talk as well with the US company because we are not in the same markets. We will not open on the list in the US or in Europe. So we are happy to share the best practices and to exchange because we are doing the same job but in different markets.
So is that not part of the game plan to further expand outside of Asia?
As we
Asia,
stay
Middle East.
focused in Asia, where Asia and Middle East, there are still markets that we are not, and there is big opportunities. So we want to stay focused in this part of the world.
And do you think it's the same for the other companies, so the ones in the US and France, or do you think they're kind of looking at what you're doing in Asia and seeing maybe there's an opportunity there?
I don't know. As far as I know, they are happy to stay, to be focused as well in Europe and in the US. But you never know. But no, I think in Asia, in fact, it's so specific. All the markets are very different, and it's not that easy.
Yeah. Or one day, we're talking buyouts. Maybe they want to acquire on the list to take hold of the Asian market.
Well, after it could make sense to have one operator, one worldwide operator, so that the brand they can talk to one person, and that can manage the stock worldwide. That would be the dream. But yeah, why not?
Why not? Or you guys become that person. You become the global operator of on the list and change everyone's names. Have you always been this way, Delphine? Have you always had this like entrepreneurial spirit?
But no, because as I mentioned at the beginning, with Diego, we didn't want to be entrepreneur. We just wanted to be like just launching a new concept here. But I would say that my previous experience before Ondolis, so I didn't work a lot before Ondolis. I started the company when I was quite young. And so the Fago, the brand I was working with, so I was very in contact with the top founders, Frédéric and Nicolas. I was working directly with them, and it gave me a bit this entrepreneurial mindset, which I think I developed later.
And do you think, or let me frame this better, do you think there's one country that's more encouraging and enabling for becoming an entrepreneur that you've lived in?
I live in Hong Kong, but Hong Kong is amazing. I think there are a lot of people that don't see how easy and how flexible Hong Kong is to start a business. In few days, you have your company open in terms of admin. Everything is easy, possible. So that was perfect to start a business.
And what about like mindset and encouragement, maybe from your colleagues or friends or family? How's that been different from Hong Kong versus France? My reference point is Hong Kong versus the UK, but I'm really interested to know the psychology behind being a business owner in France versus being a business owner in Hong Kong and how that's perceived.
But I think now in France, there are a lot of more people launching their own business. But they can receive, like, maybe the difference is that they can receive a lot of funding from the government. So there are a lot of, because we pay much more taxes in France. So there are a lot of easy funding, easy now, I would say easy, but funding that you can get from the government. While in Hong Kong, you have some support. There are a lot of networks like Invest Hong Kong, a lot of people that can support you, but there are not that many fundings that you can get from the government. In terms of mindset, I would say it's pretty similar. I have a lot of entrepreneur friends in France that have been super, and they just quit their job and they launched their own thing, and they have a strong support from their families or friends.
You said you worked on it with your husband for 6 months before making it your full-time job. What level did you feel like you had to get the business to in order to be confident enough to take the risk and quit your job?
So we are not very good at doing business plan and projection forecasts. So it was really like something saying, at a point there was a sale for like a swimwear brand who exceeded $1 million Hong Kong for the sale. After 6 months, so we said, okay, let's be optimistic that can work. I think we had like more than 3,000 people coming in 1 week.
Wow.
After 6 months, we say, okay, that's a business model that can work. So let's just focus. So it was not a really hard decision to take.
Yeah, I mean, that sounds better than most, I'd say. When a lot of people are kind of working on side hustles or businesses, trying to get them to, I don't know, 60 to 80% of their normal income, and then being like, okay, let's commit. I suppose it's easier. It's easier when you've got a clear thing that's working and that there's a high demand for. That's amazing. Yeah,
And
that's
also the same for when we started the other markets. As mentioned, we are very instinctive, maybe because of the age or because of the fact that we are not good at all into this business plan topics. But when a brand asked us, so the story was a brand that we partner in Hong Kong, they asked us to do something in Singapore, and we said directly yes, why not? So that's why we said, okay, let's open Singapore. And a bit similar with all the different markets that we open, it was through a brand that asked us to do some business there, that we took the decision to go, but without thinking too much. I think now it's a bit different. Now we're a bit more mature and we are more into looking at the consequences of opening a new market that is very time consuming and very not as easy as we can think. But all the development was a bit like intuitive and by like brand's requests.
Was you and your husband, do you have quite complementary skill sets, or was there something obvious that was missing that you felt like you needed to hire and get help with pretty soon into starting the business?
Alors the fact that we could be complementary in certain aspects, but in terms of skills, we have a bit the same one. So we like business development, we are not we have a bit the same like way of thinking. We did the same school, like business school in France. Then after, for sure, we have different ways of working. And there is no the tech guy and the business side and everything. So and after, it's a business model where at the beginning we didn't need a lot of tech. For instance, if we talk about tech, so we quickly hire people to support us in the areas where we were not very good at.
And can you share with us some of the biggest struggles that you've had over the last 9 years? Maybe one, has there been any times that you've been close to failure? Anything that you've particularly learned something special from?
Well, for sure, we had a lot. First off of my mind is that we closed the market. We were starting to operate in Taiwan with a partner. Usually all the market that we have were direct, but here it was a good opportunity to do something with partners. We did a JV over there, which was good because we learned how to do a JV. We spent a lot of time in the contract side that we didn't know before. But unfortunately, it was after during the COVID, and the director that we hire resigned, and so the market was not working. So we took the decision together with the partner to close the market, which it's always easier to open than to close. So it was a bit of first.
In what way is it easier to open than to close?
Opening is always very exciting. So then after, when you close, you have to let go people. You have to to think that all the work that you have done now it's like it's nothing. So that's not easy, but sometimes you have to take this decision because it has to go like that. And after now, the most difficult moment for us was in 2022. Same in the middle of COVID. The show we had in Hong Kong before was in Central. We took the decision to move to Quarry Bay to Taikoo. So we moved just at the beginning of 2022. And Taikoo, we moved here because there were a lot of people working. There are a lot of people working there, but at that time it was work from home, so no one was there. So I remember there was like really a ghost city. Well, you know, it's much more different. So no one was coming to the show in Hong Kong, and in Hong Kong you had to let it open because by law there was no closure of
There's no lockdown, right?
yeah, but the brand didn't want to ship us any stock, and there was no customer. So at the end of the day, there was no business. Then Shanghai, at that point, it was a lockdown, so it was closed as well for a few months. And at that period of the time, around the year, we saw really the cash flow decreasing with no income. And we were in a situation where, like, at a point that we one day Diego told me, I think we'll close the company. We don't have any more cash. It was a period I was delivering my second baby, so it was not easy as well for me in a personal aspect to deal with that. And so we had to, unfortunately, to took some measure. So in Hong Kong, to let go some people, which was the first time, and it was the first time we did that. But it was quite necessary. We had to cut a lot of expenses to make sure that we could refocus on the business and go in the right direction. We took some loans. In Hong Kong it was personal guarantee as well, so it's always, even though we don't own anything, but it was always a bit stressful. And then after, it was really okay. That's a crisis. We need to refocus. We don't have any more budget to do anything, but we have to go back on track. And fortunately, Shanghai reopened after a few months, and they really turned around things very quickly. And in Hong Kong as well, we had a new managing director that just arrived at this period, Giovanni, that helped us to refocus everything. And we went through this crisis, but it was a very stressful period.
Yeah, wow, that does sound stressful. I mean, especially earlier in the conversation, you mentioned how important those in-person sales were, and I lived in Hong Kong during COVID as well. I can completely understand the ghost town streets, people not wanting to go out, companies probably not being super keen on sending you guys stock because of everything they're seeing about Hong Kong in the news and all that sort of stuff. And so if you could go back then and tell yourself in 2016 one piece of advice before you've started up this amazing, successful company, what would that one thing be? And do you think that you would listen to yourself?
That's a good one. I don't think I will listen to myself. Maybe the advice I will is more to study a little bit. Don't say yes to everything, and the ability to say, because as an entrepreneur, even now it's very, very difficult for me to say no to things, and I hate that. Well, sometimes you need to do really the pro and cons, and when a brand now asks me, can you help me in Japan? I know that I don't have time to go Japan now. It's a super difficult and tough market. I need to study everything before going there. But 10 years ago, I would have said, yeah, for sure, let's go Japan and let's do something. Even 2 years ago, I did it, and it didn't work. So it's really the ability to step back and say no.
It's a great piece of advice for anyone. I think it's something that I've had to learn myself. Actually, the last 6 months, I quit my job 6 months ago to try and make it on my own. And I think the being able to say no is a real change in mindset, right? It's going from trying to please everyone else and just jump on every new opportunity versus actually I don't know if it's a good thing or a sad thing, but now no is kind of my default,
Uh,
especially for like social occasions, because
right.
I'm being protective of my time and I'm being protective of the opportunities that I think are the right ones. And it's a very hard thing to get your head around, saying no, and you think things are exciting, but actually you go back to your core mission, and your core mission on the list might not be to chase this brand new shiny star, even if it's going to give you some cash flow in the short term. Um, but how much, especially in the early stages, how important were those things? Because I'm sure there's a fine balance, right, between saying no, but also you need to make money. So if there's an opportunity somewhere where you think you're going to make money and it means that you can grow and survive, how do you kind of balance those things?
But at the beginning, when you start a market, usually you don't make money at the beginning because there is a lot of investment and you need to. There is a learning curve for sure, and you don't get access to the very top brands. So you're not very like it's not a question of making money. Um, I have a character where you mentioned about social. Um, Even though I know that sometimes you need to say no, but I am a type of person to always say yes, and I love meeting people, and I love taking coffee, like discovering new adventure, new stories. And you never know, like you can meet this person that you think in a way would be not useful in your daily thing, but later on it will
You
circle
never
back.
know.
Yeah, so that's why now I tend to still say yes to any social social things. But why it's always trying to step back and to balance things. I would say that being two, it's a strength because we can always debate and see the pro and cons easily. So there is always this the topic about the solo entrepreneur and that's how difficult it is. But I would say being two and being a couple, so it's much more easier. It's much easier to debate with Diego, so we can support each other on that.
Yeah, I want to dive into that very quickly. You're a couple, right? You're a married couple and you've started a business together.
Yes.
Has has there been any difficulties with that? Has there been any moments where you think to yourself, why did we do this? Keep business and pleasure separate. Share with us just what that's actually like going into business with your husband.
Um, No, as mentioned, and there are a lot of positive aspects. But the beginning was quite difficult because we are still super passionate, but we're in every topic together. We don't have the same way of working. So I remember some business trip where we were like completely, it went completely crazy because, like small example, I like to arrive 10 minutes before meeting. He like to arrive 1 minute before. So we're like different way of doing. But now we found our space. I think with time we are much mature for sure. So we like to debate, we like to share ideas, but then after we listen to each other much more. And how it works that we differentiate the market. So he has his market and I have my markets, and so we have the ownership in
Okay.
the market that we are on top. So that's much easier because we can take our own decision for sure. We always discuss and for any like big decision we are aligned, but then it allows kind of ownership because at the end of the day what is important is who's going to decide for this thing. So
And is there any do you try and separate like home life and business as well, or is it always the dinner conversations is talking about business decisions?
we try to put a rule, but then it never work. So there is
Possible.
no rule, and we talk about business all the time. But now we have kind of a thing that if he talks about it, I don't want. I tell him clearly like this is not the moment. I'm not into it. I'm doing something else. So and we understand each other on that.
I think, yeah, how important is communication then for you guys? Because I think for every couple, it's probably the most important thing. But especially in your situation where if you're not clear with each other and you're not talking, then it's not only going to affect your home life, but probably your business as well.
Yeah, for sure, definitely.
It's very inspirational. I love seeing stories like this because I always question myself if I would love to go into business with my wife, because she's an absolute rock star and she's so good at what she does. And whenever she's helped me on my business, what I'm doing at the moment, and my content and brand deals and all that sort of stuff, the podcast, she's so good. She's so good. And she's so much better than me at all the stuff that I'm really bad at. So we've got really complementary skill sets. So that's why I'm asking all these questions, because selfishly, and she's French. So, she's a very amazing, strong French woman. So she helps me a lot.
And at the end, there are much more couple that work together than what we think. I even have some, I know finally a lot of people around me that work together.
I think it's really cool. I think it's really, and you build a life that you want together long term. Speaking of then, what is the 10-year plan? Where are we going to see the business in 10 years? Where are we going to see you guys in 10 years?
As I think as mentioned, the strength that we have is to be in different markets, not only in one market. So we still want to open new markets in Asia and in the Middle East. So that's where we want to grow. And then after, we want to make sure that all the market that we have, we do things better and better always. That's very important to always having this mindset of improvement, because we can always improve what we are doing. So we are working a lot with the team on this concept of continuous improvement. And then we want to work more on, as I discussed a little bit before, this leftover, how we can support the brand on the recycling or charity donation to make sure that these leftover are well handled. So that's where we have an added value and we can support our brand's partner.
And so that's on the business side then. And then personally, how would you like to be remembered, Delphine, when all is said and done?
Voilà. That's by who?
Right. Anyone that knows you, anyone that has interacted with you, people that love and care about you.
No, I think as a mother, now it's the topic of finding a balance between all the different aspects of your life, which is not easy for sure, in different different priorities. But I just want to make sure I find a good good balance in my life, and so that every person around me could think that I was with the family on the side, with the business on the other side, with my friends. So that's more on this topic.
As you know, the podcast is called Abnormal. It's for normal people that want to do abnormal things, of which you and your husband are very much doing with on the list. And it's been a great story. I've loved hearing more about it. But for the listeners, Delphine, what's one piece of advice that you would give to someone wanting to do something abnormal in their lives?
I think it's just a very easy one, but just test it. I think there are so many people that want to have the perfect, they have the idea, but they have to have the perfect product or the perfect service or whatever before launching it. But as we just started like that, and after it grew, but we didn't have the perfect, for sure, service at the beginning. And just test it, and don't be afraid to talk around you, because I see a lot of people, when they have an idea, they don't want to share it too much because they're afraid of being copied, which more you talk about it, more people will give you some advice, and don't be afraid of being copied about something, because that's the feedback of the other can help you to grow and to launch your business.
Love that. Well, that is it. Thank you so much for coming on. I know you're a super busy woman, and I know that even more from talking to you now. So thank you for coming on and sharing your story. It's been awesome to hear from you. And I cannot wait to maybe get another podcast in a couple of years' time and see just how much you've grown.
We'll be happy.
Thank you for listening to this week's episode of Abnormal. If you enjoyed, please consider subscribing to the channel and give us a 5-star review in whatever podcast platform you are listening or watching on right now, as it goes a long way to help growing the show. Thank you, and see you in the next one.